Inside the shelter, after Bianjin Wu and others left, Zhang Yi sat on the sofa in the living room, playing with a silver metal lighter in his hand. The lid of the lighter was opened and closed by him, the flame burned brightly, and the blue flame was thin and long as sharp as a saber. It was snowing outside the window, but the shelter was warm as spring. Zhang Yi looked at the flame in front of him. After thinking for a long time, he finally decided to confess everything to the people around him, because the investigation team had been deceived by him to Aoan district. That means that a large number of hidden zombies will also usher in an outbreak. That means that the real zombie showdown in Heavenly Sea City is not far away. If everything goes as Zhang Yi expected, the previous battle outside the snow worship cult was a realistic drama, and this time the decisive battle, the pressure index will be raised by many levels. If one is not well controlled, the entire Heavenly Sea City will be destroyed by the zombie tide. Zhang Yi must grasp the measure and control the development of the situation within his ability. At the very least, he must ensure that he and the people around him can survive. At the very least, he himself must survive. It's time they should be mentally prepared. Zhang Yi closed the lid of the lighter with a click sound, and then said to Xiao AI, the intelligent robot in the shelter, Xiao 2, help me notify everyone in the shelter and ask them to come to the living room. Okay, received. The next moment Xiao AI's voice rang out in every corner of the shelter. Please everyone in the shelter gather in the living room immediately. After hearing this voice, everyone showed a curious look on their faces. Most people didn't know that the zombie crisis had not been resolved. In the past, Zhang Yi would only call everyone to a meeting when facing major problems, so everyone didn't know what had happened again. Only Yang Xinxin had a dark light in her eyes, and controlled the wheelchair to leave the control console. Is it time to take the next step? Yang Xinxin said. A few minutes later, everyone in the shelter gathered in the living room. Everyone looked at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, what's wrong? What happened again? Everyone was a little nervous. They thought the zombie crisis was over and they could enjoy life. But seeing Zhang Yi's serious expression, they felt bad again. Zhang Yi didn't keep them in suspense and told them what happened directly. This time the zombie crisis in Heavenly Sea City is not a natural disaster, but a man-made disaster. There is a huge conspiracy behind this and everyone in Heavenly Sea City is involved. Zhang Yi said everything in a gentle tone, starting from Zhou Qir's discovery that Yuan Kongya has multiple superpowers. It ended with him discovering a large number of zombies hidden in An district. Because this matter is too complicated and the layout is too long-term, Zhang Yi had to slow down and analyze it for them bit by bit. By the time Zhang Yi finished telling the story, half an hour had passed. The air in the room was filled with a strange atmosphere. Everyone had a strange expression on their face. They felt like they were listening to a suspense story with constant twists and turns. If you don't listen carefully to any detail, it's hard to figure out the ins and outs of it. You can slowly savor the fun of the story, Zhang Yi said. Now everyone just needs to remember that the ultimate goal of Yuan Kongya and the snow worship cult is to destroy all forces in Heavenly Sea City, then gain the power of mutants. As for what plans she has in the future, it has nothing to do with us. Our real problem is how to get rid of this big trouble of her right now. Yang Xia, who was sitting not far from Zhang Yi, had a pale face when she heard this. She stroked her arm, which was covered with a layer of fine bumps. Then won't she have to kill me? Death Return is an ability that will only be activated after killing the mutant who has been implanted with Ice Soul. In the shelter, only Yang Xia has been implanted with Ice Soul. Although her ability is more auxiliary, it is very useful. The key point is that for Yuan Kongya, killing one is killing 1,000 is also killing. There is no reason to let Yang Xia go. Zhou Qir secretly felt lucky that she didn't implant the Ice Soul. She also understood that Zhang Yi did that to protect her. Zhang Yi comforted Yang Xia and said, "You don't have to worry for now. If things go as we expected, Yuan Kongya's conspiracy will not succeed." Liang Yu asked worriedly, "But if it is really as you said, Yuan Kongya now has at least a dozen mutants, or even dozens or hundreds of mutants who can deal with her?" Zhang Yi crossed his hands under his chin. "Yes, who is it?" everyone asked curiously. Bianjin Wu. Zhang Yi said the name seriously. This is why he tried his best to keep the investigation team. When Zhang Yi said the name Bianjin Wu, Liang Yu, Uncle Vu and Fatty Shu nodded. They have all seen Bianjin Wu's strength. That kind of powerful and terrifying pupil technique can instantly destroy everything the eyes see. If it weren't for the side effects, Bianjin Wu's ability rating would definitely be qualified to reach the Epsilon level. But for Zhang Yi, as long as his power can disintegrate Yuan Kongya's conspiracy, that's enough. That night when Zhang Yi and others were fighting against the zombie army head-on, Bianjin Wu's 7-man team sneaked underground, and eliminated 6 zombie kings. At that time there were definitely a lot of zombies protecting the zombie kings underground, but Bianjin Wu and his team still completed the decapitation operation. This shows that they have the means to fight against large numbers of zombies. However, they may have to pay a huge price, for example, shortening Bianjin Wu's lifespan, which was already short. Zhang Yi knew that what he did was a bit unkind, but in order for himself and the people around him to live well, he could only sacrifice some people who had nothing to do with him. If there was a little bit of guilt in his heart, it was because Bianjin Wu had invited him to join Blizzard City and showed some goodwill. But I have no choice, Zhang Yi said secretly in his heart. If only one side can survive, I will choose me, and the people around me. Then Zhang Yi began to tell everyone about the future plan. I tell you this so that you can be mentally prepared. If the situation gets out of control and the 7-man team fails, we must leave Heavenly Sea City. There are enough supplies in my space, and we can survive well even if we go somewhere else. The only regret is that we lost the shelter with a top-level defense system, so non-combatants don't take off your clothes when you sleep these days. Be ready to transfer at any time. As for combatants, your task is the simplest. Be ready to fight at any time and then follow my orders. Liang Yu asked curiously, are our enemies zombies or the snow worship cult? Zhang Yi took a deep breath, looked at her dimly and said, maybe both. He had a smile on his face, but no one could laugh after hearing this. Not only do they have to deal with zombies in the hundreds of thousands, but they also have to deal with an extremely powerful mutant. This situation is simply despairing. They don't know how Zhang Yi can still laugh. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Now I also want to say something to comfort you, but this is the situation, just understand it. The worst result is that we all leave Heavenly Sea City. If the Yayan army fails, even if Yuan Kongya will not lead the zombie army to encircle and kill us, the Jiangnan district will not show mercy. Zhang Yi stretched out his hand and pointed to the sky. The indiscriminate attack of the god of death of love will instantly destroy the entire Heavenly Sea City. Everyone's expression was helpless, but basically a bitter smile. If that situation really happened, they would have no room for resistance. Zhang Yi leaned on the sofa, his eyes looking at the chandelier worth 10 of millions on the ceiling. He said lightly, let it be like this. Everything that is supposed to come will come. Zhang Yi is self-aware. Although he and Yang Xinxin have made plans to deal with the zombie tide and the snow worship cult, but this world is full of surprises. Therefore he arranged a retreat for everyone. Once the plan fails they must leave Heavenly Sea City as soon as possible, and for Yuan Kongya and others, the person they hate the most is not him, Zhang Yi, but the people of several major forces. After all, after the end of the world, the grievances between them are the deepest, and Yuan Kongya will deal with them first. Everyone go and get ready, Zhang Yi said to everyone. Then he took out the satellite phone and started the mechanical mouse. Let it lead the way for Bianjin Wu and others.